What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Knights of Horror coming at you with a new video. I haven't done a top 10 in a while, or a top anything within that matter for a while. So today, as you can see in the title, we're going to do my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. So bear with me because this is a good list, at least in my opinion, because these are my favorite horror movies. Before this video starts, I just want to give out a huge thank you to everyone who keeps supporting me and watching my videos and stuff. I really appreciate it, and from the heart, thank you very much, guys. But without further ado, let's get this video started.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me!
Coming in at number 10 is the Purge election year. Now, I really like the Purge election year because I, for one, love the concept of the Purge where they get one night to do whatever they want. There's no boundaries. All the laws are lifted so they can kill, they can steal, they can do whatever they want. So the Purge concept, in my opinion, has always been one of the best concepts ever. I like this movie because this was the third installment of the film franchise, and this was actually the best out of the franchise. The first one took place in a house. We didn't get to see very much outside. And the second one, we got to see more outside. The second one actually stepped up better than the first one. And the third one went all out because they dropped it where anyone can get killed. Where before they had a law where anyone who was class 4 or higher couldn't get killed. But they dropped it because in the election year there was a girl trying to run for president and she wanted to stop the Purge, so they wanted her dead at the Purge. So I thought that the third movie was by far the best, and it's a really good horror movie. It's been at Halloween Horror Nights numerous times, so that's how you know it's doing something right. Number 9 is going to go to Insidious. Now, Insidious is a great franchise, but the first one, and by far, is always going to be my favorite. You know, Chapter 2 was really good, and Chapter 3 was, well, you know, it was okay. But, you know, Insidious 1 is always going to be the best one because it brought in a new kind of horror that we haven't seen for a very long time. It made horror movies mean something again. It made horror movies actually good again. And I really enjoyed this horror movie because I actually got scared. And it's something that a lot of horror movies have tried in the past, but they haven't lived up to what Insidious has brought to us. And from Insidious, we've gotten, you know, Insidious 2, Insidious 3, The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, Annabelle, this whole universe that James Wan did. And I am loving every movie that they do. Which brings me to number 8, my all-time favorite horror movie, or not my all-time favorite, but on my top 10 list is The Conjuring. Now, The Conjuring is actually the same guy who did Insidious, but they're based on true events that happened with the Warrens, and we get to see some of their famous cases that they did in the past, which is really good. The first one, in my opinion, is really good. I think I liked it a little bit better than the second one, but the second one's actually pretty good too. But it's cool that we see these families that are getting hurt with something, and the Warrens have to come down and perform exorcisms and stuff. They actually, in real life, are partnered up with the Catholic Church to do exorcisms. So these guys are doing a lot of good in the world and stuff. But nonetheless, Conjuring had a lot of good jump scares and stuff that really got me, and I was really happy. Like I said, much with Insidious, that it's an actual horror movie that has been a long time coming, that actually has good jump scares and scares me. With that being said, we're gonna go back to the 70s, 80s era. With number 7, one of my all-time favorite horror movies is The Exorcist. Now, The Exorcist is based on a true story, except didn't happen with the little girl, it happened with the little boy. But nonetheless, The Exorcist is a classic. You know, you got the girl who gets possessed by playing with a Ouija board. A series of events follow as she gets possessed, and they have to call in one father. One father comes in, tries to perform an exorcism of some sort, sees what he's dealing with, and he goes in to get another father, who is Father Merrin. Father Merrin has dealt with this demon before, so he has an idea of what he's going to do. But at the same time, it's going to be a challenge for him. It's one of the ultimate fights of good versus evil, and in the end, I wouldn't say the demon wins, but at the same time, I don't know, it's kind of a hard ending to really, I mean, the demon ends up going back to hell, and both fathers end up dying. One of the fathers sacrifices himself to save a little girl, and yeah, so The Exorcist is probably one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Coming in at number 6 is a horror movie that not a lot of people know about, and if you've seen the movie Krampus, you'll know that the same director who did Krampus did this next film called Trick or Treat. Now, Trick or Treat is about, it's got like 3 or 4 different stories in it, and they all lead into one universe. It's all tied into one. But Trick or Treat's really good because it actually goes around one little boy named Sam, who you see throughout the movie, but you don't know what his purpose is, and it looks like he's the one causing all these stories and all these tragedies to happen. We see a story about a girl who sets up for Halloween, lady. She's like a family woman, and she's taking down Halloween decorations, but then she sees something's not right. You end up finding out that one of the decorations or someone is a killer and ends up killing her. We see a story about a principal who poisons kids on Halloween with his candy and ends up killing a bunch of kids, and you find out he kills a lot of kids. We have a story about werewolves who do a sacrifice on Halloween night. We have a story about kids who go to this abandoned bridge where a bus driver and a bunch of kids drove off a cliff and died. Nonetheless, at the end, you see the bus driver and Sam. They go off in a battle, and it's really good. It's a really good classic scary movie. I like a lot of the practical effects they use more than special effects, so that was really cool to me. It was also featured in this past Halloween Horror Nights Orlando as a scare zone. I would actually really like to see that come over to Hollywood, either as a scare zone or maze. I would be really impressed with it. Coming in at number 5 is actually, this year was probably my all-time favorite horror movie of 2017, is The Shining. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is a masterpiece, and you know, a lot of the horror stuff aspect doesn't really start happening until about the middle to end of the movie, but nonetheless, it's such a great movie with such a great message, and there's a lot of hidden meanings in the movie. There's a lot of stuff to break down. I'm still watching videos to this day of what the movie actually meant, what the ending actually meant. There's just so much good stuff in this movie that I feel that The Shining is probably, from now all the way into like the future, is going to be one of those horror movies that stands out as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Number 4 is the very first 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is loosely based on a true story. What you see in the movies is not really what happened in real life. The actual guy, he was, I think he was gay in real life, and he killed his mom and his dad, and he was just a weirdo. But in the movie, they show him a different way. His name is Tommy. They called him Leatherface. He's got a family of, I would say, like hillbillies and stuff like that. And they go in and they kill people and they skin them, and he makes masks out of his victims' faces. Hence the name Leatherface. But yeah, he chops them up like a butcher shop. This movie has gotten sequels. This movie has actually gotten a remake in 2003 called Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. That had a sequel to that. They recently just came out with a Leatherface origin story. They had the Texas Chainsaw movie that had kind of a reimagining of the whole thing, kind of a whole different story in its own. But nonetheless, this movie over the years is a classic. On top of that, it's gained all these sequels and everything. So the legend of Leatherface always lives on. Whether they make a movie 10 years apart or 20 years apart, it's going to come back and keep coming back. Number 3 is A Nightmare on Elm Street, the very first one. Now, if you've never seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street, that's another horror movie classic. That's one of my all-time favorite horror movies too, because we got introduced to a new kind of monster, a new kind of villain by the name of Freddy Krueger, and just the concept of Nightmare on Elm Street is awesome. I've heard that this is actually based off people who have stuff that actually are like this, who actually die in their sleep. Not because of like a Freddy Krueger type person, but because I guess it's a legit disease where people actually can die in their sleep. So they based it off that, and they just added Freddy Krueger in. Nonetheless though, Freddy Krueger is probably one of the most badass villains. He's had numerous sequels. He's had a remake. He's even fought Jason. We got to see Freddy vs. Jason. That was by far one of my all-time favorite horror movies. It's not on this list, but nonetheless, it's a really good horror movie. On top of that, like I said, he's had numerous sequels and stuff, and he's just a super popular character. Robert Englund does a great job with the Freddy Krueger laugh and everything. Of course, in the first one, he did not play Freddy Krueger. He didn't start playing Freddy Krueger until the second one. Not a lot of people know that, but Nonetheless, it's still a fantastic movie. Number 2, and this is going to be kind of weird because you would think I'd like the first one better than the sequel, but the sequel is where it's at. It's Friday the 13th Part 2. Now don't get me wrong, Friday the 13th Part 1 is amazing. The killer is actually Pamela Voorhees, who is Jason Voorhees' mother, but we don't actually get to see Jason till the very end of the movie, and that's actually just a dream sequence. With Friday the 13th Part 2, we actually get to see Jason in his first mask, which is the sack, the potato sack bag with the one eye hole in it, and he had his axe and just going around killing people. This was the first introduction as Jason, and if you got, not many of you guys know, the reason why he's doing this is to get revenge for his mother, because it is said that he had watched his mother die. So, you know, Friday the 13th Part 2 is amazing because we got to see the rise and wrath of Jason. Friday the 13th, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Nightmare on Elm Street, has gone on to make many sequels. Of course, Freddy vs. Jason, and a reboot. I heard there's actually talks of making another reboot pretty soon. It was actually supposed to come out this year in October, but I guess they flanked on the project. I don't even know if the project's still alive. I really hope it is, because don't get me wrong, I love the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th with Jared Padalecki, but I would like to see another adaptation of the series because we haven't seen a Jason movie in so long, but he's one of the most iconic characters. And last but not least, coming in at number 1, my all-time favorite horror movie. Like, this movie kind of set the pathway to me liking horror in general, is Halloween. Now, Halloween is John Carpenter's classic. I think it came out in 1978 or 1979. I think it was 78. But, you know, it's a John Carpenter classic. He had a super tight budget, super little budget on this, so it's pretty much considered a low-budget movie. You got Jamie Lee Curtis, who kind of really jump-started her career when this movie came out. On top of that, you can't go wrong with that iconic score. It's just amazing, and I love everything about this movie. How he escapes a mental asylum, comes home to kill his sister, trying to kill the rest of his family. He's a psychopath, and you got Dr. Loomis trying to look for him. Dr. Loomis knows exactly what's wrong with him. He's trying to contain him, but he knows he's not going to be able to contain him, so he's going to try to kill him. He's trying to save Laurie and everything. Like the other 3 movies I just talked about, got many sequels. 1 and 2 are the originals. Everything after 2 is kind of its own storyline. They all mention 1 and 2, but we believe, or, you know, as a fan, I believe 1 and 2 are the true classics. Rob Zombie went on to remake 1 and 2, which were, I like the first one a lot, the Rob Zombie remake. The second one was whatever's to me. But there is one in the works now that Danny McBride wrote the script for, gave it to John Carpenter. John Carpenter loved it, so that's always a good sign that if the originator of Michael Myers liked it, then it's going to be probably a good movie. But that's it for my top 10 horror movies, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave in the comments below, what are your top 10 favorite horror movies? Because I'm always interested to see what your guys' input is as far as the top 10s go. So like I said, leave your comments below of what you think is your favorite top 10 movies. I'm always curious to see and find out. Thanks guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.